Viral worldwide. Taehyung and Jungkook's gesture at The Tonight Show. Starring Jimmy Fallon. What did they really say? New York City. The internet has exploded once again. Within minutes of Kim Taehyung and Jungkook appearing together on the stage of The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon, social media went into complete meltdown. Every clip, every smile, every glance, every tiny hand movement, and every second of silence between them instantly became the center of global attention. From South Korea to the United States, from Japan to Indonesia, from Brazil to the United Kingdom, fans everywhere began asking the exact same question. What really happened between Taehyung and Jungkook on Jimmy Fallon's show? And more importantly, what did they actually mean by what they said? At first, many expected the night to be just another high-profile TV appearance, a fun interview, a few jokes, a powerful performance, and maybe some sweet interactions for fans to enjoy. But what unfolded on screen felt very different. It felt heavier, softer, more emotional, more personal. And the reason this moment has gone so wildly viral across the world is not just because Taehyung and Jungkook look stunning, or because their performance was flawless, or because Jimmy Fallon clearly enjoyed every second of hosting them. It's because there was something in the air, something quiet but impossible to ignore. Something in the way Taehyung looked at Jungkook before answering. Something in the way Jungkook smiled after hearing Taehyung speak. Something in the way both of them seemed to understand each other without saying much at all. That is exactly why fans are now replaying every second of the interview and performance, frame by frame, trying to understand what really happened during one of the most talked about TV appearances of the year. And one thing is already certain, this was not just another interview. This was the kind of moment that leaves fans breathless, emotional, and completely unable to move on. The studio turned into chaos the second they walked in, even before Taehyung and Jungkook officially appeared on stage. The atmosphere inside the Tonight Show studio already felt electric. The audience knew something special was about to happen, but the second Jimmy Fallon introduced their names, the room erupted into a wall of screams so loud that even Fallon himself looked amused and slightly overwhelmed. This wasn't just excitement. This was the kind of screaming that only happens when fans know they are about to witness a moment they will remember for a very long time. And then they walked out, side by side, calm, confident, impossibly beautiful, and somehow immediately magnetic. Taehyung stepped onto the stage with that signature effortless aura he carries so naturally. Relaxed smile, sharp eyes, a presence that somehow feels both soft and dangerous at the same time. And then they walked out, side by side, calm, confident, impossibly beautiful, and somehow immediately magnetic. Taehyung stepped onto the stage with that signature effortless aura he carries so naturally. Relaxed smile, sharp eyes, a presence that somehow feels both soft and dangerous at the same time. Jungkook, standing beside him, looked slightly calmer than usual, almost quieter, but in a way that only made people stare harder. And then the first detail that sent fans into immediate chaos happened. Their walking pace matched perfectly. It was such a tiny thing. Most casual viewers would never even notice it, but longtime fans absolutely did. Taehyung slowed down ever so slightly as they approached the couch, and Jungkook adjusted to him without hesitation. It looked natural, unforced, familiar. That single little moment was enough to spark the first wave of reactions online. Why are they moving like they've done this 1,000 times without even thinking? That was way too natural. The energy already feels different tonight. And honestly, fans were right. Because before either of them even said a single word, the entire internet could already feel that this appearance was going to become something much bigger than anyone expected. Jimmy Fallon noticed the energy immediately. One of the reasons this interview became so unforgettable so quickly is because Jimmy Fallon clearly felt the chemistry in the room too. Jimmy, who has interviewed BTS multiple times before and knows exactly how passionate their fandom is, opened the conversation with his usual warm, playful energy. He joked about the internet already breaking, before the show even aired, and laughed about how every move Taehyung and Jungkook make instantly becomes a global event. The audience laughed. Taehyung smiled. Jungkook ducked his head and laughed softly. And then Jimmy Fallon did what he does best. He casually asked a question that sounded harmless, but ended up shaking the entire fandom. He asked what it feels like to stand on a huge international stage again, next to someone you've grown up with for so long. It was a simple question, but the answer that followed was anything but ordinary. Taehyung was the first to respond. He picked up the mic, looked toward Jimmy, but before he said anything, the camera caught a moment that fans are still replaying over and over again. Taehyung glanced at Jungkook first. Just for a second. Not long, not dramatic, but enough. Enough for the studio to instantly explode again. Enough for the internet to completely lose control. Then Taehyung smiled and answered in a tone that sounded casual but deeply sincere. He said that being on stage with someone who has grown up beside you makes everything feel natural. He said there are moments when you don't need to explain very much anymore because the understanding is already there. The second those words were translated and processed by international fans, the reaction online was immediate. Because that did not sound like a rehearsed promo answer. It sounded personal. And before fans could even recover from that, Jungkook followed with a response that may have been even more devastating. Jungkook's short answer became one of the most talked about moments of the night. After Taehyung's answer, the audience was already in full meltdown mode. Jimmy Fallon looked delighted. Taehyung leaned back into the couch with a small smile. Jungkook laughed quietly beside him, almost as if he already knew what the reaction would be. Then Jimmy turned to him, and when Jungkook finally spoke, he said something so simple, yet so powerful, that fans immediately began calling it the most dangerous sentence of the night. He said, "I feel calmer when I'm next to him." That was it. Just one sentence. One short, gentle sentence. But the way he said it changed everything. Because Jungkook didn't say it like a joke. He didn't say it like a promotional line. He didn't even say it dramatically. He said it quietly. Honestly. Almost like it slipped out more naturally than he intended. And the second those words landed, the studio exploded. Jimmy Fallon laughed and slapped the table. The audience screamed, so loudly that Taehyung himself had to lower his head and smile through the noise. Jungkook, meanwhile, looked shy in the most painfully endearing way possible, laughing softly and rubbing the back of his neck while trying not to react too much. But the damage was already done, because fans everywhere heard that sentence and instantly froze. "I feel calmer when I'm next to him." That line was clipped, subtitled, reposted, slowed down, translated into dozens of languages, and shared across every platform within minutes. And the reason it hit so hard is because it felt so real. There are many ways to describe closeness. There are many ways to describe comfort. But sometimes the most emotionally powerful words are the simplest ones. And Jungkook chose one of the simplest, yet most intimate truths possible, calm. That one word alone was enough to send millions of fans into emotional chaos. Two short answers, and suddenly the whole world was talking. In celebrity interviews, especially on major American television, artists often stick to polished, safe answers. They talk about hard work, excitement, gratitude, preparation, and how honored they feel to be there. And there is nothing wrong with that. But what made Taehyung and Jungkook's interview so different was that the most memorable parts of it were not flashy or scripted. They were soft, quiet, almost painfully genuine. Taehyung said, "I don't need to explain much." Jungkook said, "I feel calmer." That was enough. Those two answers alone became the emotional center of the entire appearance, because together they painted a picture that fans everywhere immediately understood. This was not just two performers sitting next to each other for a TV segment. This was two people with history, two people with familiarity,